Hey everybody, you're listening to So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I am Garrett.
And I'm David.
Yeah. Today on the show, we are finishing up Men in Black. We've been talking about Men in Black for a while now. This week we're covering the most recent sequel / spinoff, Men in Black International. Came out summer 2019. Stars Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson as our new lead agents, with Liam Neeson joining the franchise, Emma Thompson returning from Men in Black 3. And that's the gist of it. Kumail Nanjiani plays a little alien friend.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh yeah, that's about it in terms of the cast. There's did you say the guy who plays Agent C?
Who's Agent C again?
Agent C. I don't actually get it.
Which one was that?
Huh?
Who was
He
Agent
was the guy
C?
who was kind of a jerk towards H. He was like got the glasses, and he was like, "I don't trust you," and he's like, "Oh, you're different ever since the thing you did." And then he's like, he seems like he's going to be the mole, but it turns out to be the other way around.
No.
All right.
I don't know who that is.
I don't actually know. I can't remember the actor's name, but I know that he is frequent collaborator with Edgar Wright. So he's in like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, At World's End.
So in this movie, Tessa Thompson, since she was a little girl, has been interested in space and aliens. She actually encounters an alien and then spends her whole life trying to find the truth, and that leads her to becoming an agent with MIB International, stationed in London. And then the movie kind of takes a left turn from there and is about a bunch of nonsense. What does everybody think?
Greatest movie of all time.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
Better than the Lion King.
Movie sucks.
Is that where we'll find out, I guess, at the end of whether or not this one is better than the Lion King or not, won't we?
I think the Lion King is better than this. The Lion King at least held my attention.
Yeah.
Garrett?
Cool.
It's bad. I mean, it's bad. It's a shame because watching this movie, one of the first things that I wrote, like not even like a quarter of the way into the movie, I wrote down that it was a good idea with poor execution, because I think that this movie could have been good.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I look at it is like Tessa Thompson starts off, she could have been a very I'm going to go back to the original or the first two with David Cross and his character that he portrayed in the second one, where he's very conspiracy theory and he believes all of this stuff is out there, but has no actual proof other than his conspiracy theories. And I think that if they would have set Emma Thompson's character up in that way, where her whole life she's been tracking aliens and has had this feeling that things were real, and she is monitoring everything that's going on in London and is trying to solve this herself, while the MIB is also working to solve it. And then they meet at some point in time, and then we learn a little bit more of the backstory from Emma Thompson. Tessa Thompson. We learn a little of her backstory, and we see, when she was a kid, she met an alien and saw the Men in Black, and that she's not actually a conspiracy theorist, is that she actually has firsthand knowledge that these things are real and has been trying to find it, rather than we get all of that at the beginning and then it's just wasted on her character. Chris Hemsworth is a very one-note character, but that we don't really like. He starts off great and high esteem, and then all of the sudden throughout the rest of the movie he's like this big failure, and we don't know why. And in my opinion, we never figure out why. I know that we learned that he got neuralized at one point in time, but he just completely changed character after he saved the world, and never really get a full explanation as to why. It was just big swing and a miss.
Yeah, for me, I didn't think this movie was as bad. It was everybody made it out to be.
Really?
It's still not very good though. I was expecting it to be like an editing mess, the way everybody was describing it. Like it's just gonna it wasn't gonna make sense or something, or there was just gonna be like major flaws in logic. It's just not very interesting. I think the core problem stems from, you guys have talked about the how they handled that story and how you kind of get everything with Tessa, like all of her backstory is just here you go, and then you're in Men in Black now, and go, and you're basically gonna like go to like basically the very front of the line. Although we can get into that in a second, but for me, the core problem is I don't feel like these characters have the chemistry for this type of movie. The actors have chemistry, and like when in the fleeting moments where it's Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson kind of more or less just being their funny selves, it's okay. But you essentially have, okay, so what made J and K work were that J and K were very similar but very different. They were both pretty arrogant characters. Like they both were super confident in their own abilities, but J was extroverted and K was introverted. So you have that dynamic of Jay's really loud and obnoxious and over the top about how good he is at this. And Kay is very like, I got this handled, son. I'm not going to, I don't mean to make a big show about it. I'm just going to take care of it while you're not, while you're over there waving your arms. Here, it's like they're both just kind of the same character, but one of them has been around longer. And if you started this movie halfway through, you would think Tessa Thompson's been in Men in Black for like 17 years. Like she's not that much of a rookie compared to him. She knows almost as much. She's apparently just as good of a fighter based on, and maybe the way they rushed through the beginning, it's like, it seems like she's had one day of training, but they just kind of gloss over the, like, you've been trained in how to use all these weapons and all this stuff. But she doesn't seem like enough of a fish out of water, even though she's been studying all this stuff her whole life. There should be that threshold of like, oh, I thought I understood how this works, but it's so much bigger. And I don't really feel like that's there. I feel like she handles it all pretty well in stride. And then Chris Hemsworth, my wife said it, this is kind of a phoned in effort from Chris Hemsworth. Like, I don't feel like he elevates this character or this role. And then I honestly think that the way the story developed, I honestly think you could have fixed, if you want to tell this story specifically, they had a better sounding story in pre-production, it sounds like. But if you want to fix this specific story, I think you can do it with one key change, which I'll get into as we talk more about the movie.
I will say that I felt like the movie was really one-dimensional, and really not even that. I thought it was very bland. It was very boring. There was no development of anything. Mm-hmm. And by the time there was development, it kind of hit you with a surprise. Like, oh, that happened. Like the idea, like, the twist that, Chris Hemsworth character, is it H? I guess. I don't know. Agent H was neuralized. It was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I wish I would have cared. So there's, it just didn't hold my attention. It didn't hold my attention. I think about like maybe 40 minutes in, I'm like, all right, let's like, I have no more interest. It's a very dull and uninteresting film that may have killed Men in Black.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the idea of trying to recapture the magic, and we've seen some reboot, sequel, series, franchise have success in the last 10 years. This is not going to be an example. This is going to be an example of it failing.
Wrote, not a single person in this movie has chemistry with another. It's almost like each person acted in a soundstage by themselves, and the editor pieced it together to make it look like they were all in the same room. Like nobody acted like they were with anybody. It was really just awful. And I don't blame the actors. I do to an extent, but I'm also, you go online and you read a little bit about it. You're right. The post-production of this, or the production of this, was just so awful. They went through several rewrites. People at the studio left and weren't replaced. It said that, let me find it here. It said that new scripts and rewrites were being sent to Hemsworth and Thompson daily, and they were both so confused that they hired their own dialogue writers. Like, you can't make a good movie with that kind of a production. It's not going to happen.
No, basically, anytime you ever hear about an actor hiring their own writer to come on and basically write scenes for them on the day, it's not good. It's not good. It's what Schwarzenegger did with Batman and Robin, although that was probably not going to be good anyway.
Yeah. But I also remember hearing that, I don't think, whoever, was it Sony that owns this property?
Yeah.
I had read that they said that the legend, and they're going to say this, of course, so take it for what it's worth, but they said that it's not a dead franchise. Said that Men in Black has such a marketable name that it's not killed it. It said that it might not come back for a very long time, but they don't believe at this moment that it is dead. And I'm indifferent one way or another. I mean, you can't bring back Hemsworth and Thompson. Like, they're done.
No, unless you're bringing them back.
You have to completely revamp.
Unless you do something like you completely change the setting. You don't do international again. You do something like MIB LA or something like that, right?
Then we're just going to have an NCI situation on our
hands. I know.
NCIS where it's just so many.
Well, and that's kind of the appeal of how you can do this one, is that, like, as compared to other franchises, is that location could make a big difference in how exactly things are presented, how they're handled, how they want to do it. With the first one being so heavily New York inspired, and this one had that element of, like, globetrotting international feel. You could do something different, and that can be your way of making multiple franchises out of one concept. In the way that they did with Jurassic World, and the way that they have done with the Ocean's 11 series is like we're just going to pick another number. I mean, and after a while, people are going to be like, oh, what's this one going to be? Ocean's 9, Ocean's 10, Ocean's 2 this time, because there's only 2 of them left. But you just kind of set it adjacent. And in that situation, I think if they had done well with this, they probably would have had the goal of get Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones to come back and appear in, like, a crossover movie. So people can be like, oh man, they're getting the old MIB and the new MIB together. Oh, this is great. But yeah, I don't think you can have these characters unless somebody comes in with, like, a definitive vision.
Yeah.
Take over.
I do like the idea of, like, taking it to a different city or something. I think that LA could be funny, just because there's so much play you could do with actors and famous people that live in Hollywood being aliens. Like, that's just an easy gimmick to introduce into a movie like that.
Anywhere could be. I mean, they could do, it might be Atlanta.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh man, all these Southern folk, so much room for aliens.
Well, one idea I was thinking of was, like, maybe if they were to make a MIB prequel, like how MIB started, kind of like what they did with Star Wars. There was Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 in the beginning, and then in the 90s they went to 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. And then
I don't know if that would be able to work unless you bring back Josh Brolin. I mean, Kay was such a big point of creating MIB, and at least in this world that they've created, where you've already gone back in time and met young Kay. I mean, you'd have to go even farther back to an extent, because MIB had been established when they went back in time, who knows for how long, but you'd have to find somebody else to take on this Kay character. And Josh Brolin did such a good job, unless you just completely ignore Kay, which I don't think would be smart.
You just do, 2 other agents from that time period and say, hey, there's more than just J and K. There's a few other people who've been doing this for a while, that kind of thing. I mean, we saw 2 other agents in the beginning of this movie, so I mean, they weren't big name actors or anything. But
yeah, in this franchise, the movies are only as strong as the lead agents, I think.
Yeah.
So, and you get one chance to get it right, and they didn't get it right this time. So were they to explore this in the future, it would have to be something completely different, I think, with
You
all
know,
new people.
yeah, and
And
I
I
think
think
a lot of it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
when you look at this franchise as being kind of about an agency, you really can compare it to a lot of those TV shows like CSI and NCIS and all that, and understand that those shows are also only as strong as their main characters, because the stories are the same. All the shows, the stories are the same.
Yeah.
It's just how the characters deal with it and how people respond and relate to them. So it could take place almost anywhere, just like any of those shows. It's just got to have strong main characters or it will not work. I think that's the
Absolutely.
key.
Do we want it? That's the question. Like, we've talked about how this world can be this way in this Men in Black world, but like, here's the question: is do we want it? Like, do we want a Men in Black franchise again
Me
after going
personally,
through?
no.
Yeah, I don't. In this world
But
that we live in, J and K are Men in Black. This one is an outlier. It's kind of like, I don't know, just an afterthought. Like, I don't think about it. I won't consider it. It will be Men in Black 1, 2, and 3, and International will be forgotten. And I don't necessarily think that I want to live in a world where they bring in new agents that don't incorporate Tommy Lee and Will Smith, because they did everything so perfect.
I don't think I would really want one at now. I mean, if this had been good, if this had been like, wow, they've really rejuvenated this series, then maybe. But I don't feel like they did. I don't feel like they were able to recapture the magic of the first one.
No, they didn't.
No.
I mean, I was interested in where they would go after seeing Men in Black 3, but I wasn't really as much after 2, when I saw 2 as younger, I was like, yeah, man, we make another one, but it's so long. I mean, how long am I going to have to wait for this one? 11 years?
Even longer
Yeah.
because of how bad this one was. You
This
have
is
to wash the
2012 to
taste out of your mouth.
2019, so this is another 8-year gap in this franchise. Like,
This is Sony we're talking about.
Oh,
Look
yeah.
at what they did with Spider-Man. Don't doubt that they'll do it too soon.
Yeah, no kidding. They could do it too soon, or they could wait forever again, like they did with this one. Yeah, if this had been good, then maybe I'd be itching. Because like I wasn't necessarily begging for a Jurassic Park 4. They made Jurassic World, and I was like, it's pretty good. I dig it. Yeah, if they want to do more of these, and they want to do it with these characters and do it with this style, I mean, sure, why not? This wasn't terrible. I've never been into King Kong, but I liked Kong Skull Island, so I was like, yeah. I mean, if they want to make some more of these and they want to do it with this director and he's got a vision, sure. This had no vision. This was a corrupted production from the start, and it was never going to be. I don't think it was ever going to be good.
Well, I think actually I don't think the movie they worked on was set, but my understanding is that the original script looked at like had a lot of like current event components to it. Like it talked about a lot of socioeconomic, political things that they incorporated into the script, and they really tried to put some of that stuff there. But again, the differences between the studio and the director just got rid of all of that through rewrites. Let's see, it's had
he basically
socio-political commentary on the current debate surrounding immigration. The main antagonists were to be alien music group inspired by the Beatles, with 4 members merging into the villain during the climax.
Yeah, I read that too, and I don't know that sounds any better to me.
Reading that it sounds
incredibly
odd.
stupid.
Well, I mean, but it doesn't sound any cheesier than the other ones. Like
look
at our bad guys in 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. Like these aren't. It's not like sometimes the cheese factor is supposed to, I think, be a bit of a part of these movies. But
well, and I can see it working
cheese.
if they take it from a perspective of like Beatlemania, where the Beatles just took over and like became so popular. If this band were to do the same with the intent of like taking over the world, and then political or the Men in Black knew that and had to deal with, not exposing aliens, but also trying to prevent them from taking over the world. But everybody in the world knows that it has no idea, and they're just big fans. And so slowly they're incorporating themselves into people's homes. That could be an interesting take on it.
Yeah, it would be a unique element where the characters they're having to fight are in the public eye. So like it makes their job of stopping them more difficult. Because we see all those celebrities they always throw up on the screens in the background and they're like, yeah, it's an alien. And so like they're, obviously aliens are celebrities, but imagine if one of those aliens that's a celebrity started trying to take over the world. Like it makes Men in Black's job probably a little bit harder because the person they're trying to beat is, has like all this attention around them. Yeah, because in that element you could get into, like you said, like I think like it says in there, the immigration debate about this. You could get into, elements of like cult of personality, if like instead of like necessarily the Beatles, but it's like somebody who's like dominating the media and dominating the airwaves, and like people don't want to believe that he's bad or whatever. They could get into that kind of stuff, but I mean that got left on the floor here.
Good.
Yep.
I do want to say I thought that it was cool that they at least tried to give this movie some cohesion with the old franchise by bringing back Emma Thompson as O. I thought that was kind of cool, and definitely it was like they knew they wanted to leave that door open in case they need to get back, as they left some level of connection. They also had Frank the Pug back, which is weird.
Yeah,
I thought he died.
There were too many attempts at throwing things in your face. Frank the Pug, Noisy Cricket was shown. The alien worm guys were there, and they were just like little nudges of like, here, look at this. Here, look at this. Here, look at this. And I did not like it.
Yeah.
I get what they were going for, and maybe it was just because the movie was so bad overall, but like, I don't like it if you're not going to actually either hide it really well and let me see it on my own, or give it some kind of purpose. And these were just like, it was like bad jokes in Men in Black 2, where it was like, it just didn't feel well executed.
No, there was no magic here. But nothing. I don't
Nope.
feel like there was anything terribly special here.
Nope. Just a bad, boring movie made by committee. That's what you get.
True. That's true.
I think
I'm
I can't remember if
I
we
really
talked.
have nothing else to add about this movie.
I can't remember if we
It's so
talked about it
bad.
in Men in Black 3, but another one that they were that was in the production before the Sony leak was the 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting thing to explore, 2020 hindsight. I don't really know the story of that or how far along they were with that, or why they decided to scrap it. I mean, if they scrapped it because it leaked that it was going to be a thing, but it had positive buzz, why get rid of that for something that is this,
Yeah. Well, since you guys don't have much else to say, I'm going to give you David's editorial rewrite of the movie.
Oh boy.
Because I think there is a way that you take bare bones of the story remain the same. Okay. Weird aliens who look like twins come to Earth. They're wanting to find this thing. It ends up in all kinds of weird hands. It's a big, scary weapon. It turns out, the twist at the end is going to remain essentially the same. Here's the main thing you change. You switch the characters of H and High T. The partner that Tessa Thompson works with is Liam Neeson's High T, who was a highly decorated member of Men in Black, but something happened a few years ago. He claimed, he's told and he claims that he saved the Earth, but he can't exactly, and whenever he tells you though, it's the exact same thing, wits and deatomizer thing. And in charge is Chris Hemsworth's H, this young, good-looking, smart guy who has everything under control, who somehow nobody really quite understands exactly, was given the power by High T. And he, basically seated, he said, I believe, this young man, he saved the planet. He should be in charge, not me, whatever, right? And then everything else is the same, because I think it would be way more fascinating to me to see the interaction between Liam Neeson and Tessa Thompson in those same kind of dynamics that we have with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, because I feel like they could have found that dynamic. And Chris Hemsworth's going to be way more interesting as a bad guy here, as a guy that you're not sure you can trust, and a guy that when he reveals himself as being the bad guy, you go, oh, that's awesome. I wouldn't have, maybe you have people going, I wouldn't have never thought, because Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Everybody loves him. Nobody would ever see him as the bad guy. Then he's the bad guy. It would be much more compelling of a story, I think, than what they ended up doing. I don't know.
I think that
Maybe.
I think it could be done. Like, I mean, if you keep the characters essentially the same, you have Liam Neeson's character as, a downtrodden, sad person. Again, I still say that Chris Hemsworth did not have a reason to act the way that he was, because he was a hotshot up and comer who saved the world. So why all of a sudden is he lethargic and sad and not caring about this
why
job?
Is he slacking around?
Like, it made no sense. But you take, the alien takes over for H, the neuralizer is, you did good up until now, and now you're questioning if you can still be in charge. So you want to go back in the field, and he's sad and whatever. And then is like, yeah, you're in charge now because you stood up to these aliens and did it.
Yeah.
And then, when they ask T to tell the story, it's like, well, the alien knocked me down, and the next thing I knew, H was up there, and he had taken them over or whatever. And that, gives T's character a reason to be sad. It gives reason for H being put in charge without you fully suspecting aliens had taken over.
Yeah.
And no neuralizer.
And I mean, as I was watching it, I just kind of thought, man, I feel like they missed the mark with this movie. It shouldn't be Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson as the main duo here.
Yeah,
it's
but
just
from a marketing standpoint,
not an exciting dynamic.
Liam Neeson pairing up with Tessa Thompson is not as marketable as Liam Neeson pairing up, Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth back again. That's just from I don't care, because that would have been better.
Absolutely,
by marketing. I'm like, you put Thor and Valkyrie together in this movie, sign it.
I wish. I mean, apparently, I don't think marketing did much good of anything for this movie, which we can get into in box office stats.
Okay, well, let's talk about the box office performance of this movie, which I really don't know much about. I assume it didn't do great, but probably didn't do horribly. I don't know. Did it? What did it do?
Well, it's definitely not didn't perform well. As we talked about with the, like marketing wasn't really heavily poured into this movie as much as other films on Sony's docket. So while they had a few things, it didn't quite work. I do want to, before I get started, throw a quick shout out. Box Office Mojo listened a little bit, and they have given back some features. You still can't use their site. You can use other sites to do this. You still can't use their site to see like actors and directors. But they gave back the ability to look at franchises and look at brands and look at there was one other thing they gave back, but basically they expanded it a little bit. I'm not going to delve into a whole lot of that kind of stuff here today, but I noticed
you think they did that because Box Office Mojo is kind of irrelevant right now? So without that archival data, there's no point in going to it?
I thought about it because it was like literally within the last 2 days, because that's when I was doing these stats. And I was like, whoa, where'd all this stuff come from? And I look, and they have like a special note that says something like, we will report whatever box office data there is, although there's not going to be very much of any. And they had all that stuff on there. And I thought, man, this is great if they leave this stuff up here, or if they figure out that nobody's going to pay, like, except for like, industry insiders are going to pay for, this level of box office detail. Anyway, so I wanted to mention that. I was going to throw that up on Twitter whenever this episode comes out too. Men in Black International debuted just last year, June 14th, 2019. You guys remember where you were. It finished number one, fortunately, with a 3-day opening of only $30 million. I say only because that's not that much compared to some of the other openings of 2019. If you look at what else was in the box office that weekend, it's a pretty good weekend. Did I say that? I'm sorry, I started to say that. It was not a super weekend. the weekend of June 14th, 2019. So Men in Black 1 opened to $30 million. The Secret Life of Pets 2 was in its second weekend and made $24 million. Aladdin was still rocking in its fourth week with $17 million. Just a 29% drop from it week to week. That's not bad. And then number 4, you have Rocket Man, brought in $9 million in its third week. Just a 30% drop there. That's good too. And then you have in its second week with a dismal 71% drop from its opening week, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, well, that's a bad movie.
X-Men Dark Phoenix went from opened in the number 2 spot and fell to number 5 in 1 week, which is $9 million. Since it's 2019, I'll go ahead and throw this out here too. Avengers Endgame was still in the top 10 at this point, bringing in $3.7 million in its 8th week. Now going back, we look at what did I write that? What did I write here? I wrote Unseated Avengers. That's not true. Going back, you look at we have the 3 sequels in the top 5 that weekend, and I think Josh, you might have actually posted about this specific weekend or a weekend similar on Twitter last year, because somebody posted a tweet post that said the box office this weekend, sequel, remake, original movie sequel, you know. And it may not have been this one, because I think Rocket Man wasn't the movie they were putting in the number 4 spot. For the director, now you guys may very well know the director, F. Gary Gray. I did go ahead and do a little bit of stats on him. So F. Gary Gray is probably most known recently for Straight Outta Compton, and that is one of his more critically successful films. If you look at his box office numbers, this is going to end up being one of his worst movies. Well, I say that. I mean, he's had some movies that have been around the same level, but in terms of the budget, one of his worst. Obviously, his best is he directed Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
Moving on, if we look at Men in Black's international take, it brought in $173 million, so a little better overseas. But here in the United States, it finished with $80 million, bringing its worldwide total to $250 million. Men in Black International would finish in the number 36 spot for 2019. So a very distant finish from everybody knows number 1, Avengers Endgame. I'm not really going to go through 2019. If you want to hear all about our favorite things in 2019, check out the 2019 recap podcast and the 2019 mid-year podcast too, because that was
why
not? What was the budget for Men in Black International?
Let me pull it back up here. It was listed as being $110 million.
Oh, okay.
So it made back its budget in worldwide. But $30 million on $30 million opening on a $110 million budget is not super.
No.
So looking at 2019, let me see here. We talked about this a little bit, but our highest grossing non-sequel that year, if you don't count remakes, is The Lion King. Highest grossing sequel, Avengers Endgame, and highest original concept is still Us. Previous movies we've done in 2019: Avengers Endgame, It Chapter 2, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, and Zombieland Double Tap. And if you want to hear another show we did about 2019, check out our Oscar show.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Men in Black super underperformed. Since it's the last movie of a franchise, I have these comparative stats thing that I actually made because Box Office Mojo wouldn't do it until 2 days ago. Men in Black International is the worst performing of the group. It, even compared to other, like the standards of 90s, early 2000s, and early 2010s, it's just not good. If this doesn't kill the franchise, it'll be just because somebody believes in it. It's been in general a case. Huh?
Not me.
In general, this franchise has been a case of diminishing returns. Your first movie brought in $250 million in the United States. The second one, only $190 million. The third, $179. They finished number 2 in their year, number 8, number 12, and number 36. So like the interest level for this franchise has only gone down seemingly. And so I can't imagine money-wise that there's going to be much incentive to make a new one.
No.
I didn't mention this when we did the first Men in Black, but the first Men in Black is actually on the all-time top 100 highest grossing movies.
Wow.
And that's adjusted for inflation. Unadjusted, it's in the top 130. But it's the 92nd highest grossing movie of all time adjusted for inflation. So this movie they started at such a high point, you know, for an unrecognized brand in the 90s to make it big hit and to have some level of success in terms of your follow-up. But I don't know. Hopefully, they call it here because I don't think anybody really wants more.
No.
And that's it.
Cool. Who's running the letterbox game this week?
You guys won't be happy because it's me.
Oh no, more David.
I actually listened to my recording of last week's show, and I was like, oh, I won. Oh, good. All right. Hang on here.
One of these days we're going to be smart and write it down. It's not going to be today, but one of these days.
No. Not going to be today, not going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, and one of these days we're going to just write down that the letterbox game always comes after box office stats. We won't go, oh yeah. Okay. Men in Black International has been at least 54,000 people claim to have watched it. 1,000 people have written reviews for it. Although you don't have to write a review to rank it. You can rank it without writing a proper review. But what is the ranking on Letterboxd from I think the lowest it can possibly be is 1.1 or 0.1 all the way up. We know it's not 5.
1.7.
1.7 from Garrett.
I was gonna go
2.2.
Josh sneaks in 2.2.
2.2.
Oh man. I'm gonna go 1.7.
1.7.
Pretty sure that's exactly what I said.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, Garrett said 1.7. Andrew, what did you say?
I said 1.7.
He did say 1.7.
1.7s. That makes it really easy for me.
For some reason, I thought you said 1.2.
No.
I'm going to go with 2.7.
2.7 going
Wow,
up.
a full star jump. Wow.
Going up a full star to 2.7. So 2.2 from
really,
Josh,
really wanted the
1.7 from Garrett, and 2.7 from Mr. Nichols, or I don't know, Agent A. JG and A. The total aggregate score based on letterboxd.com is 2.4, making the winner Josh.
Oh,
We'll get to lead the game next week and wins the
2.4.
prize of envy. 2.4.
That's high. That's too high.
I'd agree.
Well, what do we give it? Let's determine the So Many Sequels rating.
Half.
I'm going to give it a 2.
It gets a half
So
from
I
me.
have a half, a 2. Andrew?
Half. I would give it a half.
Half.
Wow, 2 halves. Wow.
I give it a 1.
Mm.
So the score averages out to a 1.
Yeah, listen, you take two people that have proven chemistry in another movie where they were together like this, and you give them nothing. You completely kill a franchise that has a name that people enjoy. You don't get a full star from me.
Look, for me, it just comes down to a 2 because I wouldn't necessarily say it sucked.
Oh, it sucked.
It was just mediocre.
Oh no, it sucked.
In my opinion,
Mediocre is a big compliment.
Like it has everything it could have, thrown at it, but the stories just suck. The story is what sucks, and so like everything else, it is good as everything else can be. It's just nothing there. There's no real enthusiasm. So I give it a 2, which is higher than everybody else. But I mean, 2 is not a great review from me.
No, a 2 is not good, especially from you. That's true.
No, I tell you what, I watched this and I watched Cars 2 the same day.
Oh,
And
what is wrong with you?
Cars-
Why?
Cars 2 was
Wow.
Cars. Well, I got a special thing I might be releasing soon. Cars 2. I mean, that was what I was going to talk to you about before the show. Yeah, now I remember. I have to say, I watched both those in one day. Cars 2 is like 100% more creative than Men in Black International. I'm just going to leave that out there. That should tell anybody who's listening or
believe
watching
it.
this podcast who has not yet watched Men in Black International. That should tell you everything.
Yeah, it's true. All right, well.
Do
I
we
guess
want to
that
rank
wraps
the
up the
series?
Oh yeah. I'll go first. Oh, this one's tough for me. I
It is
honestly
tough.
think I like 3 just as much as I like 1.
I agree.
I think I'm actually gonna go 3, 1, 2, 4.
I'll
I'm gonna-
say I like Men in Black 1, Men in Black 3, 2, and then International. So
1, 3, 2, International.
That's the same as
Waka
mine.
waka. I think that this is a tough one because I think I like 3 better as a movie and the entertainment value I got from it. But it also just could have been sheer surprise because I had never seen it before recent viewing. And having watched it after 2 and realizing how bad 2 was after liking 2, and then going into 3 and being really thrown by how good it was, really caught me off guard. But I think with everything that this movie did, I think I still have to go 1, 3, 2, 4, just because Men in Black's such a classic. But God, it's close between those 2.
Yeah, I think Men in Black
Sticking
2
with
is
3.
better than this by a leap. Like Men in Black 2 is not necessarily anything to praise, but it's way better than this.
Andrew,
At least
I want to hear your take on 2 and 4 because recently we discovered that Men in Black 2 was your least reviewed.
Yeah, it's your worst reviewed movie.
Yeah. So, like, how do they compare? Are they equal? This one better? Worse? Because if you say that this one's equal, I'm going to go over there and slap you.
No, this is what I'm going to say. In Men in Black 2, it had a song from Will Smith. And that's some sort of a redeeming factor. So 2 is better. 2 is better than Men in Black International, but not by much.
Yeah, you better go back and give Men in Black International like a half star.
Oh,
Excuse me.
got my review.
Men in Black 2.
Sorry,
Me. Men in Black 2. You better give it back a half star or something.
I've already written my review on Letterboxd for Men in Black International.
Oh, we didn't do that. We didn't do Andrew's review.
So
all right.
It doesn't say much. I read it. I mean, you don't go in depth because it's so bad.
Yeah.
But you did come up with an acronym for it if you would like to share.
Let me pull it up because I don't remember it.
For Men in Black 2?
No,
Yeah,
for Men in
I'll
Black
tell you-
International.
I'll tell you this. It's an acronym for boring. Wasn't it? Or did I make that up?
No, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay. I'm trying to remember if I can't remember anything. I just remember it was for boring.
Yeah. Boring, bad, obsolete, really is not good.
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. That about describes that
It
about
needs to be
describes Men in Black
interesting every
International.
week. We can bring back the one word thing, but Andrew has to create an anagram of it.
Yeah, you need an acronym every time. All right. Well, that wraps up the show this week. If you want to know what we're doing next time, you're going to have to follow us on social media. That is So Many Sequels on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be posting our next series there once the time comes. But until then, find us on all those places. Listen to us wherever you get podcasts. And until next time, don't get sick.
Also, I will say, I never movies. I fell asleep to this one.